Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, everyone. Ray Flowers up FantasyGuru.com. Hold on one second here as I type in a little bit here. It's always tough to do two things at once. I'm usually pretty good at it, and I'm actually doing a pretty good job now. But the bottom line is when you're doing two things at once, you have to give half your attention to one and half to the other, and neither one gets your full attention, and you're kind of a mess. The mess is done. How you doing? I am Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Thanks for joining me today. Big show today on Thursday. Again, you can follow me on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all of those places at the Ray Flowers. You can find me here most of the time, other than this week, because we had a little bit of a change. But every other week, I'm here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Justin Fensterman is with you on Wednesdays. We have a rotating guest scenario that plays itself out. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Mondays, I review the Sunday action. I go solo for about an hour. We go about an hour each day on the show here, Monday through Friday, starting at 12 o'clock Eastern time. Then you get about an hour of break. And then from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you head over to SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio and you listen to Jeff Mann's Elite Sports Show. So 1 hour here in the morning, get an hour break, 3 hours with Jeff. I'm usually with Jeff on Wednesdays. Back to our schedule here. I do that again, solo Monday, where I review the previous Sunday's action. Tuesdays, it's me and Armando Marsal. Wednesdays, it's Justin Fensterman and Rich Mileto. Thursday, today, myself and Tyler Buecher. And then Fridays, myself and Russell Clay. On the show today, lots going on. Actually, today, doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We're gonna, excuse me, we did this last week. We're gonna do a little bit of Waiver-Wire review, just to kind of get a sense of where people were at over the last couple of days in a variety of leagues. So we'll do 3 leagues there. I'll talk some storylines, basically NFL trades. Are these guys going to get traded? Breece Hall, Jaylen, Waddle, Jakobi, Meyers. How do you view those situations? What happens if they get traded? We'll talk about that. The players in the news: Achane, Travis Hunter, Ray McCloud got a new team, and Jeffery Simmons, potential big loss for the Titans this weekend. So we'll talk about all that. And in about 25 minutes, we'll visit with Tyler Buecher of FantasyGuru.com. We'll do what we always do. We'll preview the game on Thursday Night Football, and we'll also talk a series of situations with him, storylines as well here in Week 8. Dalton or Mariota, which quarterback do you pivot to? What's going on with the receiving core with the Commanders, the Buccaneers, the Saints, backfields with Tennessee and the New York Jets? And if you had to pivot to a tight end this week, Andrews or Otton? Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that game as well between Minnesota and LAC. As you can see there on the screen, don't forget, let me see if I can get there it is. Don't forget, we have our all-in package right now at FantasyGuru.com. Send an email to support@FantasyGuru.com. Any questions about this or anything else we do? Support@FantasyGuru.com. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner of the website. The football package right now, massive discount from $600 down to $159.99. Massive discount. The rest of the season, you get all NFL and college. You get the seasonal coverage. You get the betting coverage. You get the DFS coverage. You get all of it. All the articles, all the rankings. Excuse me, I have something in my throat. 1 second. All the rankings, all the projections, all the Discord rooms, all the podcasts, all the live streams, all of it for NFL and college football, for seasonal betting and DFS. All 3 for one low price, $159.99 the rest of the way. You can still get seasonal on its own, or DFS on its own, or betting on its own. You can get our other products we're covering: basketball, hockey, NASCAR, PGA, MMA, soccer, golf, horse racing. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner at FantasyGuru.com. Okay, according to the list, we're talking Waiver-Wire. Let's throw it up on the screen here. I'm going to go through 3 leagues here relatively quickly and kind of give my thoughts on the bidding process and what played itself out. Realize as well that there are many places to watch the show, as you're well aware, I hope by now. Thank you for joining us. If you're new, if you're back, as most of you are, welcome. Type in Fantasy Sports Daily to wherever you listen to podcasts. Fantasy Sports Daily. That should help you whether you're on YouTube Music, Apple iTunes, Pandora, Spotify. We're on all those spots. Go to FantasyGuru.com in the toolbar at the top where it says Elite Plus with a little plus, a little math. Too early in the morning to do math. I agree with you. Even if you're midday in East Coast still, right? But Elite Plus, click on that. You'll find this show and the others in the Elite Sports Network. And then 3 places where you can watch live or on demand later on. In those 3 places that I'm about to list, you can see my face. You'll be able to see Tyler's face in a bit. And you'll be able to leave comments and questions that we can address in those 3 places. And those 3 places are youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, and Twitter X @FantasyGuruSite. So check it out, everybody, over at FantasyGuru.com. Eric, I asked, will you talk a little World Series? I won't today. Maybe I'll talk a little bit World Series tomorrow. I do, Eric, I have been running a series of articles over at FantasyGuru.com. If you go to the baseball section, been doing a review of the 2025 season, so those articles are up. One went up yesterday on pitching. So kind of just a review of what happened. So just kind of a recapping everything. Because a lot of times we stopped paying attention in early September when our fantasy team wasn't good or our favorite team fell out. Sometimes we started paying a little attention to football. So check it out. There's a series of articles over there. Maybe, but we're kind of in football mode here. Hello, Danny. Hello, Ethan. Hello, Angelo. All you. Appreciate you all joining me today as well. So let's talk a little bit about what we got going on here on the SiriusXM Host League, a 12-team SuperFlex League. This league has $100 to spend, as you can see here by looking at the screen. If you are, $0 bids are allowed in this league. In my FSGA league that we're about to talk about, there aren't $0 bids. This is really important when you're trying to figure out how to bid. This question comes up all the time. Hey, should I, Terry McLaurin got dropped in my league. It's happened. Brock Bowers got dropped in my league. It's happened. Do I bid? Someone even said Garrett Wilson got dropped in their league. Do I bid all my remaining budget? And my follow-up question is always, can you add players for $0 or do you have to bid $1 to get a player? So make sure you know that. If you can add players for $0, as you can see here on this list, you can still get some decent players, right? If you don't have the ability to bid 0, you have to have 1. You have to backtrack that. You can't be blowing your budget and ending up with $3 left with season half being, half left to play still. So realize the rules are there and understand what they are saying for you. As you can see there, the number 1 bid was Kyle Monungai at $17. Yours truly actually got Monungai here. As you can see there in the parentheses, the run-up bid was actually $16. So I nailed this. Nailed it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have got the player. Why am I worrying about this? Because my team is just it's trashed. It's just not very good. Brandon Ayuk can't return. Ashton Genty's on a bye. Michael Pittman's on a bye. The player that I dropped, let's pull it up to verify to make sure. Henry Miller blew his knee out. He was surging forward, had to drop him. I've had a really difficult time in this league staying healthy. I've lost my tight end. I'm on to Harold Fannin now. Like it's been a slog. And as we talked about earlier this week, I don't anticipate Monungai getting 15 touches a game like he did last time out. But he is an ascending player. He's clearly proven the ability to move the pile. DeAndre Swift is fine. He's got 200 plus yards on the ground, had 20 touches last week, 200 plus yards the last 2 games. He's fine. He's actually RB12 in a PPR setup. But he's growing a little bit beat up, and this team's starting to run the ball effectively. So given everything, that's where I was at, and luckily I went that extra $1. We'll see his name come up in other leagues, but luckily I went that extra $1, even though I don't have DeAndre Swift in this league. I'm trying to remember, too. I had another running back that I lost early in the season. Oh, this is the league. This is the league where I had – is this the league? Let me check real quick. Boy, I got something in my throat. Yeah, this is the league where I had both Connor and Benson. That was fun. Yeah, lots of fun. So I lost the entire backfield of the Cardinals. Whoopie-doo. That's a lot of good times. Anyway, moving on. Ted Johnson went for 15. I added Ted Johnson myself last week. I'm kind of surprised that no one added him last week with all the injuries. We're still without Godwin this week. We'll talk again about this wide receiving core with Tyler Buecher here in about 20 minutes. Still without Godwin. He's been ruled out already. We know Mike Evans is ruled out. Looks like he can miss about up to 8 weeks. So Tez Johnson's likely to be a thing here because they just can't get healthy. Egbuka played a full complement of snaps last week, but is he still 100%? Nah. So I totally get adding Tez Johnson. And then again, in this league, just so everyone's aware, we have 3 wide receivers active. So, you're talking about having some depth here. We got obviously a flex spot. I think it was a little aggressive, but hey, I get it. I was aggressive on Monungai. So Hawkinson for 13. Really surprised he was released. Really surprised the bidding was only 13 for him. Let's see here. Again, I had Harold Fannin. Is there a significant difference between these two? Not really. The winning bid was 13. The secondary bid for Hawkinson was $1. Really surprising. You can see there that, and again, this is a PPR setup, so there is value with Hawkinson. Oronde Gadsden went for half the price of Hawkinson. Interestingly, there were 2 bids on Hawkinson with that high of 13. There were 5 bids on Gadsden. The winning bid was $7. Colton the Wolfman had gone to 13, but they had already filled the roster with other additions that they made. So they were unable to win. So there was a $13 bid there. They got Hawkinson. I'm assuming. Did they get Hawkinson? Let's take a look. Who was the winner of Hawkinson? They got Hawkinson. So they bid the same price point on both guys. The other bids for Gadsden. So the winning bid was 7. The other bids were 6, 4, and 0. So another bid where you won by $1. And interestingly enough, no, I was going to say different. Don't worry about that. Jaylen Noel went for $5. Xavier Legette for $6. I mean, we don't know the status of Nico Collins for sure. He's got the head injury. Christian Kirk's dealing with the hamstring injury. Legette's got a new quarterback. And I think that's Legette had the big game, 992-1. He's not that guy. He's never going to be that guy on a consistent basis. Dalton's a different quarterback, though, than Bryce Young. And I think the offense really will be more polished and effective through the air. That doesn't mean we're going for 290 and 2 every week, right? Let's not. So that's really interesting with Legette. We don't quite know how he and Dalton are going to jive and, if they see the field the same and how they're going to be utilized. So there's a little bit of risk there. But again, a $6 price point for Legette, totally fair, totally fine. We'll see if he can build on the success last week with a new quarterback this week. Tyrod Taylor for $4. We still don't know as of this time. Let's see if anything's come down in the last half hour. I was doing a bunch of stuff this morning. Don't see anything here. We still don't know at this point if the knee of Tyrod Taylor is going to allow him to play. He may be active. He may not be active. We still don't know if it's going to be him or Fields. It's a $4 bid. SuperFlex League, totally fine. Smart idea. Just don't know if he's going to start. And that's, you spend $4 on him and you're not sure he's going to start. And you can see down there, lower down, Andy Dalton and Marcus Mariota are 0. So I've got Patrick Mahomes and CJ Stroud. And it's like, Could I have gone aggressive here and done something? Yes. Should I have bid on one of those guys? Probably. But I got Genty on a bye. Aaron Jones just coming back. I've got Pittman on a bye. Stroud's on a bye. It's like, am I going to drop Genty or Pittman or Stroud? I'm not dropping those guys. So didn't make a move there. Kate Otton for $2. Good addition. We'll talk about the Bucs receivers with, again, Tyler Beaker in a bit. Keon Coleman for $2. He's fine. Since the 8-112-1 in week 1, he just hasn't done anything. But he's fine. There's 6 teams on bye this week. He's fine for a couple of bucks. Interesting additions here. Evan Ingram for 0. He's caught 4 passes week after week here. Where is he at for 0? I think he's caught 4 passes, 4 straight games. Is that right? Let's see if I can pull him up here as we're talking. I can. 4, 4, 5, 5. Yeah. So, he's nothing grand, but he's averaging about 10 PPR points last month. And then Franklin, we've talked about Franklin a lot. Okay, so that's that league. Let's move on to the next league. The next league to look at if I know how to use there it is. It's the listener league. So I wonder if any of you listeners in this league are actually here. My team is in not disarray, but it's really struggling. And I've lost Buecher at times. I lost Samuel at times. I lost Purdy. I've lost Bowers. Like my team I've got Trevion Henderson. Right. So it's been a struggle, as they say. It's not been easy, as they say here. As you can see in this league, 163 for Flacco. Again, this is a 1 quarterback league, so that's a very aggressive price point for Joe Flacco. Let's see, what team did Joe Flacco go to? Let's see if I can figure this out. Touchdown, help, please. Let's see if I can. I don't know how to use the Sleeper app as well. Touchdown, please. I guess I'll have to do that later. I'm not as good as I thought I was. Anyway, it would help if people who name their teams didn't change their team names. That would help. Anyway, $163. Flacco's obviously got the potential to be a low-end quarterback 1 the rest of the way, probably a quarterback 2. Theo Johnson for 101. Only bid for Johnson, so that was an overpay. To me, that's really aggressive, though. That team lost Darren Waller, so makes sense. Devin Neal for 89 in this league. Follow-up bids were 56 and 48. Neil will have to battle Audric Estime at some point for work behind him, Alvin Kamara. But Alvin Kamara is not the player he once was. Injuries are an issue. Neil will see the field starting this week. And then it's a matter of how good and successful he can look. But he's a fine addition this week. Like it at that $89 price point out of the $1,000. Marvin Mims, to me, Marvin Mims, 2 of the last 3 weeks has been good. Most of the season hasn't. He's really not a consistent part of this offense. Ray, why? Because I got injuries and buys. It's just as simple as that. You see somebody that I'm jazzed about? No, absolutely not. But hey, you do what you got to do. And he is an explosive player who, again, in 2 of the last 3 weeks, or 2 of the last 4 weeks, has had 20 and 16 points. He's also had games of 3, 1.5, 4, and 5. So, yeah. Rondé Gatson went for 53 here, so 5% here, 7% in the last league. On Keon Coleman, 5% of the bid, 2% last time, so a little more aggressive here in this listener league. Finally, the FSGA league, and this is a long list of players. As you can see here, I got Devin Neal for 9. Remember, that's a 9% bid in the FSGA 14-team league with $100 to spend. He went for 8.9% in the listener league that we just talked about. In my league here, he went for 9%. It's almost exactly the same price point, so I was able to get Devin Neal. We also saw Hawkinson here go for 11%. He went for 13% to Colton the Wolfman in the other league, actually, too. Troy Franklin went for 9. I don't like that. Sean Tucker went for 4. Who cares? I like Pierce for 3. That's fine. Pierce is what he is. Obviously, if Downs is healthy, if Pittman is healthy, we run into a scenario where there's a lot to like. They're on bye this week. So, but again, it's a fine addition in a 14-team league for sure. Defensive additions, who cares? Leggett went for 2% here. That's less than the 5% that he went in the other league. Marvin Williams went for 2% here, less than the 7% I just paid in my league. A lot of these lower level players obviously comes down to the need of the team, right? And as well as how much money people have left. Demario Douglas for 2%, don't care. DK for 1%, don't care. Flacco for $1 is a good addition, right? 16% in the last league. Again, in this one, 1%. Huge difference there on Flacco's price point. Dalton Schultz for $1. He's beat up, but we're assuming he will play. Had a 9-catch game last week, but he's been catching 5 balls each last 4 or 5 games. I think it's 4 games, might be 5, but I think he's had 5 catches at least in 4 straight. And then a kicker. Yeah, this is my one league that still uses kickers. So that's a review of the Fab this week. Hopefully that does something for you. Hopefully it gives you some context. I know there's some of you, Fab may not have run, maybe ran Fab last night or the night before, but you're looking at the waiver wire. None of these leagues are 10-teamers. They're all 12 and 14-teamers. They all have 3 starting wide receivers, but one of them is a SuperFlex league. And so hopefully that at least gives you some understanding of how people are bidding on players moving forward. John G says, all my teams seem to be in disarray. I feel you, John. Been there. I think my teams are a very similar spot to yours. All right, moving forward, let's throw the old... there we go. Throw that back up on the old screen, the old rundown of the show today. Some storylines, NFL trades. What are we doing with traded players? Let me repeat a phrase that I say all the time. Why is my face so small? How about we do this? There we go. Play the game of what is, not the game of what could be. Okay, and by that I obviously mean, and I've seen this question come up a lot. Hey, Ray, what does the value of Breece Hall look like if he gets traded to the Chargers or the Chiefs? Ray, what about Jaylen Waddle? If he gets traded, does Malik Washington go to the moon? You can play the game of what could be, but you're better off playing the game of what is. And the game of what is Hall's on the Jets, Waddle's on the Dolphins, let's go, right? Trying to predict which players get traded is a very difficult thing to do. In other sports, there are more trades. Baseball is an example. There's a flurry of trades every year. Trade deadline, there's 25 trades that go down. Football, we don't get 25 trades. Probably don't get 5 trades at the trade deadline. Like, it's very difficult to trade in the NFL. It's very rare that it's significant players too. A guy like Breece Hall, and I mean, we were talking about it on the Elite Sports Show yesterday. If Breece Hall goes to the Chiefs, which is one of the rumors, it's Breece Hall to the absolute freaking moon. To the moon. Is he going to go to the Chiefs? He's still going to be the lead back with the Jets. He's still going to get 15 touches a week. He's a starter, right? He's on the borderline of the running back 1-2 almost every week anyway. So it would be much more comforting to have him on the Chiefs. So absolutely. He'd be more effective on the Chiefs. Absolutely. But it's not like you can't use him now. Same thing with Jaylen Waddle. Like, he's not going to go somewhere and become the wide receiver 4. So I'm not making trades. If I'm making a trade for Hall or Waddle, I'm assuming they're still on the Jets and the Dolphins. Okay. I'm not making a trade because because he could go to the Ravens, because he could go to the Chiefs. I'm not doing that. Don't pay the price because you think, well, Breece Hall's running back 15 on the Jets. He'd be running back 5 on the Chiefs. You can't pay that price. Don't do that. I also would recommend, I'd caution against, better way to say it, the idea that, oh my gosh, the Dolphins are going to trade Jaylen Waddle. I'm going to go get Malik Washington. I'm going to go get Nick Westbrook-Achane. These guys are going to explode when Waddle gets dealt. The Dolphins' offense isn't very good. Tua Tagovailoa's thrown 6 interceptions the last 2 games. There's turmoil in the front office. Tua was talking about the fact guys aren't showing up. Like, there's turmoil behind the scenes. Like, this is not a scenario. Malik Washington catches everything, 3 yards in. Like, everything is short with him. Would he get more work? You have to think he would. It's not like there's a lot behind him. Nick Westbrook-Achane, I mean, a couple years now, he plays all the snaps for the teams, or plays a good chunk of snaps and gets 2 targets a week. Like, he's not a guy, but they'd have no choice, right? So if you have an extra bench spot at the very end, maybe you make a move on these guys. The problem is most of you don't have an extra bench spot, number 1. Number 2, most of you are dealing with injuries. And number 3, it's bye-mageddon. There's 6 teams on bye. So I don't know how theoretically you think Waddle's going to get traded. You want to add Malik Washington. Are you adding Washington to start him this week? I have him in a 14-team league, and I'm not planning on starting him. So if you're in a 10 or 12-team league, if you're using 2 wide receivers, like, you're not using this guy. Are you really going to add a guy this week with players on bye, with player dealing with injury, with the hope that someone gets traded? Very difficult to do that. Jakobi Meyers, kind of hoping he gets traded. The Raiders are on a bye this week anyway, so it doesn't matter. He basically wants a new contract, and he kind of said that I'll stay with the Raiders if they pay me. He's not really part of the offense right now, which is perplexing. I would assume if he's traded, he goes somewhere and returns to being who he was, a Keenan Allen type of 5 for 60 every week kind of guy. But again, he wants to get paid. He's not going to get traded for a 7th round draft pick, right? There's going to have to be something sent back to the Raiders here. So I don't know. I think if you got Jakobi Meyers, you just keep your fingers crossed and hope things get better. But I can't be expecting him to be traded. Some players in the news before we talk to Tyler Buecher in a few minutes about some other storylines in Week 8 and discuss Thursday night football. Achane, where are my notes? Here it is. Let's make sure I got the right numbers. Achane, according to his head coach, Mike McDaniel, the embattled Mike McDaniel, said that he would love to split the workload in the backfield with Ollie Gordon. The problem is Ollie Gordon's really not done anything. Jaylen Wright's been injured and ineffective when given an opportunity. And they've lost Tyreek Hill, and Tua Tagovailoa is really struggling. Many points, their offense is Achane. And he's got 121 touches through 7 games. That's a pace for about 300 touches, just under that, 294, I think. He had 281 last year, so it's not a huge difference. But one of the concerns and worries with Achane is he's not, 6'1", 230 pounds, right? He's more lithe and more dynamic, but there's some concern about workload and all of that. And, he's not running up the pro side with Achane. He's not being asked to run between the tackles all the time, right? He's getting the ball in space. They're pitching it to him. They're throwing him dump off passes, right? So he's not getting lit up a lot. He's not getting hit by 300-pound guys trying to jam it up the middle. So that's a positive here. But the fact is the Dolphins often fall behind. They need to push the offense. He's their best offensive player at this point. He's an integral part. You could argue their number 1 pass catching option. You can argue he's ahead of Waddle. So they really can't bench him. They can't afford to rest him. They can't win football games doing that. So something to think about. Ollie Gordon is the backup right now. He's been completely ineffective, but he would be the backup. He is a different type of player than Achane. The offense would be in a lot of trouble if Gordon was out there. But Gordon is not a bad last, roster spot. If you play that game, I don't think you should play that game. I think you should play the handcuff game, as we've talked about an awful lot. But there it is with Achane. Travis Hunter had that huge game, 8 catches, touchdown, 100+ yards. Brian Thomas, not 100% physically. Brian Thomas dropping passes. The real question with Hunter, who has gone from being a defensive, and this is the problem. They drafted him and they paid up to get him. And they immediately said he was a wide receiver, which was odd because they drafted up to take him as a wide receiver. They start the season saying he's going to do both, right? He's somewhat involved in the offense, but he's really playing defense. Now they're pulling back the defense and playing him more on offense. I think he only played 12 snaps on defense last week. So is that the new plan? Is he going to play 75% of the offensive snaps now? Is that their plan? 8 of 14 targets, 27% of the pass routes he ran. He saw a target. Season-long rate was under 20%, so that's a significant step up. We'll see. There's a report from the website of the team that his role in the offense is evolving, and that he might be here to stay as an elite-level pass catcher in this offense. That would be greatly intriguing for a guy whose first half has been miserable based on expectations. But it does sound like there's a chance, especially if Thomas is not at 100%, that we could see a significant workload for Hunter moving forward, something we haven't seen on a consistent basis to this point. Ray McCloud, formerly of the Falcons, who was released and not really sure what happened with McCloud, but he was let go by the Falcons. He's signed with the Giants. Normally, Ray McCloud, who cares? Like, even with the Falcons, he's playing 75% of the snaps. He's playing 100% of the snaps when they're running 3 wide receiver sets, but not doing anything. Almost anywhere he would go, you'd say the same thing. With the Giants, Neighbors is gone. Slayton can't get healthy. You know, a lot of tight end, like Daniel Bellinger. Okay, it's not bad to throw him the football, but come on. Like, we're not winning football games because of Daniel Bellinger. I know he scored a touchdown. He wasn't covered. So Ray McCloud might actually carve out a role here. We're not using him this week. I don't think he's even an addition. You know, this is not a team that's going to throw the ball 38 times a game for 298 yards. But he might end up being someone we could stream. We'll see how that goes. Mike McCoy, the interim head coach of the Colts, the Titans interim head coach, excuse me. No, why did I just? That was weird. Sorry about that. I just disappeared for a second. Hello, everybody. You got me there? Someone let me know in Discord you got me. That was very strange. The room kicked me out. The Colts face the Titans this week. Titans head coach Mike McCoy said that Jeffery Simmons is considered week to week with his hamstring injury. Everyone hear me? Someone let me know in Discord. Hello, someone let me know. So with Jeffery Simmons almost certain to miss the game this week, with cornerback L'Jarius Sneed likely to miss time with a quad injury. Thank you, Ethan. I appreciate you. Those are 2 significant situations that, you know, it's going to be very difficult for the Titans on defense without those 2 players, especially Simmons if he misses that game action. He's a wrecking ball out there. He's the leader of that defense. And anyone facing the Titans without Simmons, they're in big trouble. Thanks, everyone, for letting me know. Loud and clear. All right. Yeah, that was really weird. For like 3 seconds, 5 seconds, my face disappeared and I was locked out. I don't know what happens. The technology wizards are always involved here. We talk about this all the time. Is it Halloween? Is it October? Is it me? I don't know. But there you go. Oh, there you go. Let's see if I can go. There's Ray getting big. Let's get Ray getting into this thing. Ray, figure out how to use your... All right, there we go. Jeez Louise. Okay, so that's my rambling on. Let's move on to calmer times. Let's move on to more thoughtful times. Let's move on to the gentleman who joins us every Thursday here on the show at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. That's Tyler Buecher. You can find him Friday nights on the live stream over at fantasyguru.com, leading the DFS discussion. He's often on the Tuesday live stream, Tuesday night live stream, talking seasonal. He's on the show every week here, talking Thursday night football and storylines. He's in Discord all the time. He's writing game script articles all the time. He's really, again, integral to what we do over at fantasyguru.com. So let's bring him in. Tyler Buecher of FG. How you doing, Tyler?
Feel very flattered after that intro. Thanks, Ray.
You're welcome. True.
Appreciate it, man. How are you doing today? Excited for some Thursday night football?
Yeah. Oh, I'm pumped. It's actually, you know, we've had some.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. Yeah. So this is, you know, Chargers and Vikings. So Chargers obviously got a ton of fantasy weapons that we're interested in. The Vikings are 3-3. That's not where they anticipated being. So we'll talk about that matchup here in a few minutes. But yeah, it is nice to have a matchup that hopefully will give us some offense. Things going well on your end before we dive into it?
Yeah, keeping busy. We got plenty of content over at Fantasy Guru on the pipeline, working on my DFS wide receiver coach write-up, which will be posted later this afternoon, where I'm going through the slate, looking at some of the ideal wide receivers for us to choose for our cash games, single entry tournaments, and large GBP entries. Usually I post about 10 players with that article, and then about 1 or 2 punt plays that are just really good values that stand out. So excited to break that one up. And then getting ready for that game script article you mentioned just a moment ago. I usually start that on Wednesday nights. I'm a little bit behind, so got to catch up. Thank goodness we've got 6 teams on bye. I've got a little bit of a respite where I do have a chance to catch up really easily, and it's not a massive hurdle.
Yeah, I shared this yesterday, so it's not. I missed the Tuesday show because I was having a colonoscopy. Yay! Oh. I did actually schedule it this week because there were 6 teams on bye because I knew I was going to miss all of Tuesday. So, folks, look at the schedule. Plan your life around football. That's what we have to do here. Tyler Beaker, Ray Flowers. Tyler joins us again every Thursday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Let's dive into it, Tyler. 2 main quarterbacks. We still don't know what the Jets are doing. So is Taylor's knee okay or not? We don't really know. We do know that Andy Dalton and Marcus Mariota are going to be under center this week. Which of these 2 guys would you favor? Either one of them? I mean, are they both bottom 6? Are they like 20th? Is there hope for either one, Dalton or Mariota, this week?
Yeah, keep in mind, again, 6 teams on bye, so we're not working with a lot of options here. We've got also some injuries that are at play. I actually went with Mariota in a few of my SuperFlex formats where I have Jaden Daniels as my QB1, just making the swap over to Mariota. That way, who's ever active on Monday night, I don't need to scramble. I don't need to play that guessing game. So if you have a Daniels situation like I did, I would really recommend Mariota. So that's the way you can play it in terms of not having to guess. And you know how it goes. Let me rephrase that. We know Mariota's starting. So that's not really guesswork here, but it's more for future weeks down the line. Because it is a knee injury that Daniels is working with. You never know with those types of injuries. But I got to go with Mariota for several reasons. Over the last 2 years and the games where he's played 20-plus dropbacks or more in a game, so that's 4 total games, not a huge sample, but he's averaging 0.83 fantasy points per dropback. And sure, that's just a number, whatever. But if you look at what that means in terms of the context of the last 5 years, it's the most fantasy points per dropback among any quarterback with 100-plus dropbacks. So he's doing really well when he has the opportunity. We've seen it sparingly this past year. And the two spot starts that he had where we saw some rushing capabilities. He was able to throw the ball. I also think there's a realistic chance he gets back both Debo and McLaurin this week, given that there's extra time off. They play Monday Night Football. We'll get those first injury reports today on that topic, but I am pretty bullish on Mariota, knowing that the Commanders are going to have to throw the ball. They're 10-point dogs going into Arrowhead, and Mariota's shown the propensity to do it. He works this Kingsbury offense pretty darn well. And I think he's a high floor option for those in Superflex formats. But quarterback 20, like you said, feels about spot on.
Tyler Beaker of FG. Let's talk a little bit about his receivers in particular this week. There are some weird scenarios, like Ricky Pearsall just keeps not playing. We got a situation here with the Commanders. Terry McLaurin just keeps not playing, even though I'm not saying it properly. Last week, they were without Deebo Samuel as well. I think we're trending towards Samuel probably playing this week for the Commanders, but still, not at 100%. We don't have any idea with McLaurin. What are we doing here? Because I know a lot of people played the Luke McCaffrey gambit last week, lost. People might have gone with Lane last week. I think they got 9 points. Fine. They might have gone Chris Moore. Same thing. If Deebo is in there, what's your confidence level? And whether he's in there or not, is there a secondary weapon that you would prefer for this Commanders team this week?
Yeah, if Deebo's in there, I'm very confident with him going right back to him. He's been working through this heel injury for quite a bit. We could really tell he labored through it the last game we saw him, but considering this is now 2 weeks off, I think he should be closer to a full go. The Chiefs, they play a lot of too high, so that allows a lot of underneath receptions. It's a great spot for the slot guys. It's a great spot for Zach Ertz. So Deebo healthy, I mean, he's a 50-50 slot perimeter guy right now in this Washington offense. I think he's a strong start here should he be good to go. But again, let's wait for some injury reports before we upgrade or downgrade that word strong there, respectively. As for the other options, good luck, guys. I mean, I think there are better options out there on waivers, like namely the Bucs wideouts, those ancillary plays, because we know that Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are out. The unknown, the uncertainty here with Washington makes it more of a, well, do I just wait until Monday Night Football to make those late-minute pivots? Because then your back's against the wall. You don't have other alternatives. So I'd really rather go anywhere else other than the Jaylen Lynn, Chris Moores, Luke McCaffrey, because we just saw in the most optimal matchup possible against the Dallas Cowboys defense, they just really didn't come through with big weeks. I'd rather roll the dice on a Tez Johnson, a guy that's coming off a 10-target outing, rather than any of these Washington ancillary options.
Tyler, we got a question here from Emmanuel E. Someone dropped Terry McLaurin, probably because they're just rage dropped him because they can't handle it anymore.
I get it.
Yeah, I get it. Again, whether I'm in most of my leagues don't have IR, so it wouldn't matter if I had an IR, but I know a lot of leagues do have an IR, and so McLaurin not actually being placed on it always is a problem each week. If McLaurin is dropped to the waiver wire, I mean, we're not even halfway through the year. I mean, McLaurin could be a banger for half the season still. So how much of your, again, PPR, how many wide receivers start? What does your receiving room look like? Like, we need a lot more information here. But in general, if McLaurin is on the waiver wire, are you being aggressive to add him?
Yeah, I would be. It's 4 weeks now since the hamstring injury, which I believe it's a hamstring. I could be wrong there.
Yeah,
but
right.
It was, okay. The initial prognosis was 4 weeks. So, I mean, it's kind of like spot on in terms of what we were expecting him to return to. This was a guy people were drafting in round 3. So, like, I think nothing super changed here aside from maybe a little bit of a step back in Daniel's play from year 1 to year 2, but it's kind of to be expected after that offensive rookie of the year performance and teams having more film on him. But I still really like McLaurin. I think he's a great buy. I'd be willing to throw quite a lot of money there at McLaurin, knowing that this is a guy that has a high ceiling. It's funny you say that we've only like 7 weeks into the season. I was reminiscing. I got all my squads like on an Excel sheet, and I was looking over here, and I'm like, why is this team so bad? It's because I was impatient with Juwan Jennings, dropped him in a league. In that same league, I drafted another wide receiver. I'm forgetting the name right now, but it just stresses the importance of patience and rostering the right type of fantasy benches. McLaurin is the right guy to have on your fantasy bench, even if he's injured.
I think sometimes I'm too patient. I think I might have the other problem. And it's like, oh, damn, it's week 10. Shit. Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. You mentioned the situation with the Bucs. Let's go through that. Emeka Egbuka returned last week, played a almost good portion of the snaps, ran the routes. I don't know if he's 100%, but he was out there, so he appears to be fine. He's obviously the lead guy now. Mike Evans' report suggests 6 to 8 weeks. I love the Ian Rappaport, less than 8 weeks. What the hell does that mean?
Thanks.
Yeah, right. Let's call it 6 to 8 weeks. So a significant portion of the remainder of the season. It's likely Evans isn't back until fantasy playoffs. And then you have to decide, hey, week 1 of the fantasy playoffs, am I using a guy who hasn't played in 7 weeks? So, yeah. Chris Godwin's already been ruled out. Okay. So it's Egbuka and then the Johnsons and Shepard, basically. I guess Ryan Miller, theoretically, but the Shepards and the Shepard and the Johnsons. Who's your favorite of that group? Shepard, Tez Johnson, Cam Johnson. And where would they fit for you this week? You mentioned some interest. So we got a lot of buys. Are we talking wide receiver 3-ish here? What are we thinking?
Yeah, last Monday Night Football was pretty interesting that Egbuka was able to suit up and go. I thought that was a very surprising active call. And it wasn't just an active call. He had 12 targets in that matchup. So he was leaned on pretty heavily. But Tez Johnson, right behind him with 10 targets. Obviously, it was trailing game script against the Lions, but the usage, the opportunity points towards these guys being massive contributors. The Saints secondary is also a unit that we like to target in the pass game. They are 28th in defensive pass success rate allowed, 24th specifically in fantasy points per game allowed to outside receivers. So good spot for the vertical game, the outside game. Perimeter corner, Kool-Aid McKinstry, coolest name in the NFL. 5th most receiving yards allowed. Not great there. He's also tied for the most touchdowns allowed. So I think that really points toward an Egbuka ceiling spot, but Tez is also out there too. Across from him, they've got a day 3 rookie, Quincy Riley, PFS number 82 graded cornerback. So I like the spot for these Bucs wideouts. We were talking about Washington just a moment before. Give me Tez Johnson over all those Washington options. I think he's a great player. I think top 40 is easily in the cards for him. So I'm playing him as a flex. I picked him up in 2 formats. I'm probably starting him.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. Normally we don't jump in the middle and just go for questions here, but we got Nothing to It, who's actually paying money for your answer here, Tyler. Okay. So we're changing the scheduled program. If anyone wants to do this, thank you so much for doing it. By the way, if you do it, you move to the top of the list. We ain't even screwing around here on the show. Nothing to It's got a question. What is that? The Joker too? That's a little Joker icon. Should I trade Judkins for Kyron Williams? Half-point PPR setup. Now, this is one of those scenarios where our boy Rich Mileto over at fantasyguru.com usually says, I'm not a big fan of doing one-for-one trades position for position. It's basically what I call a challenge trade, right? It's, do you want Judkins or Kyron Williams? Both guys are weekly starters. Both guys are, I think, at this point, always going to be top 20 with the potential to be quarter running back ones most weeks. One guy's in a better offense than the other guy. One guy's on a bye and the other guy isn't. So talk us through this one here. Nothing to it's asking, Tyler. Judkins or Kyren Williams the rest of the way?
It's a heck of a question, given the play we've seen from Judkins. He does enter a tough matchup here this week on the road against the Patriots. I haven't crunched the numbers yet from week 7, but from weeks 1 through 6, the Patriots are giving up the 3rd lowest yards per carry to opposing backs, like 3.13 yards per carry. Like they've been stout against the run. So I think this is a spot where Judkins may falter, and we're going to need to see one of those Dylan Gabriel drop back and throw it to the tight end 30 times kind of matchups here. But looking beyond that and just for the rest of season scope, Judkins already had their bye. Kyren has his bye this week. So you're kind of like taking the 0 from Kyren this week, which is a reason not to do the trade.
Judkins' bye, by the way, I think is next week.
Oh, did I misspeak? Okay, I thought they were
it's next
5
week.
or 6. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, all right, no point there. I honestly like the rushing performance we've seen from Judkins far more than what we've seen from Kyren, who we've sporadically seen some Blake Corum usage. We've seen some more red zone pass attempts. Now that they've got a viable pass catcher there, and Devontae Adams ending drives with touchdowns there. I think I'd go Judkins, but the answer really is I agree with Rich. This is just a trade where I feel like whichever path you take, you're just probably going to tilt when the other player has a good matchup and the other one doesn't. So I think I'd probably sit pat, but to answer the question directly, I'd probably take Judkins.
It's interesting, too, if you look at Cleveland, because we always, at least I worry, weather, right, late in the year, especially in Cleveland. We've seen a lot of weather issues over the years. Week 13's they play San Francisco at home, Tennessee at home. Then they play Chicago on the road. That's not much better. Buffalo at home, Pittsburgh at home, in Cincinnati. So, weeks 13 to 18, there's not a West Coast trip in there. It's all potential weather. Do we make too much of weather? I feel like we do. I feel like all the time, like, oh my gosh, do we make too much of it, especially for the ground attack?
It happened last week with the Dolphins and Browns game. Like, sure, it was raining, but it wasn't like insane production and stuff like that. I will say those teams you just rattled off there, none of them stand out matchup-wise as great against the run. So I think it could be a good spot for Judkins to close out the year, especially if weather dictates fewer passes from their rookie QB or / QBs ? Do we ever get the swap? I'm going to stick with Judkins there.
Thanks for the question. Nothing to fit. All right, let's get back to it, Tyler. Let's talk a little bit about the Saints running back group. Alvin Kamara is not who he once was. Henry Miller, who was ascending, hurt his knee. He's done for the year. Next man up is Devin Neal. They also went out and signed Audric Estime. So talk us through this backfield. Devin Neal, we reviewed some fab here before you jumped on. He was going about 8-9% of the bidding, which I think is pretty fair. Hopefully it is, because one of those people that did that was me. But because I lost Henry Miller. What do you think here? Is Devin Neal someone to add? If Kamara were to go down, does Neal take over? Are you worried, quote unquote, about Estime and he might it be a split? What's your best guess, which is what it is? What's your best guess at this point to do? Because again, Henry Miller had carved out a role. He was getting 8-12 touches a week. That's a significant role for somebody.
Devin Neal isn't like particularly flashy. So let me back up. He's a round 6. For those that are unfamiliar with this game, he's a round 6 pick out of Kansas. Boatload of rushing scores his final 2 years there. Not overly athletic, modest numbers and missed tackles for per attempt, modest numbers and yards after contact, explosive run rate. Really, the reason why you're doing this is the same reason why you were holding Kendre. Kamara is old. He has an injury history. And for that, I think it's enough reasons to hold him in many formats. I think he's a solid stash in deeper leagues specifically, but even in a 12-teamer, if you were holding Kendre, why not go here? There are some comparable backs out on most 12-team league waiver wires, but if you were holding Kendre, this is basically the same bet. The bet that Kamara is not going to be able to hold up. The bet that this is a team that's trying to evaluate the young guys on their roster. And Neal fits that to many degrees. So I think he's just a fine ad. He's not an exciting ad. I'm not worried about Audric Estime, who's on his 3rd team in 3 months. So give me Neal here. But again, it's not a player where I think we need to go crazy with fab.
I did add him in a 14-team league. So that makes you feel a little bit better. I'm just looking for compliments, folks. Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. Continue to talk with the backfield, Tyler. What's going on here in Tennessee? Yeah, I know right? It's like the last 2 weeks, basically Spears and Pollard have basically seen very similar workloads, very similar snap counts. I think they believe and want Pollard still to be the lead back there, but the problem is, game flow, they're falling behind. They have to open things up. They use Spears more. Ridley didn't play last week, still unclear there. The passing offense stinks. The team isn't very good. I was talking earlier about Simmons likely missing time. That, kills the defense up front. There's going to be a lot of games down the stretch here where the Titans are down, 21-3, right? So how do we look at this backfield? Does it matter? I mean, we're guessing and hoping with either guy because this offense is so bad? Do you have a favorite here? Do you think one of them is going to ascend to the point where you can actually start them on a weekly basis, or just break glass in case of emergency?
I'm smirking there because you asked, do I have a favorite? And the answer is neither.
Okay, that's fair.
You nailed it. The last 2 weeks, the split is like right down the middle. Snap share is 49-52 favoring Spears. The rush share is 62-38 favoring Pollard. The receiving share, the receptions, 53-47 favoring Pollard. Well, that was surprising to me that they were so close in reception work because I always envisioned Spears being the pass catching option. Right. Fantasy production wise, both these guys averaged under 10 points per game. So, and this is just the last 2 weeks when both have been healthy. Now we've got them as a 14-point dog here against the Colts. Not a great matchup here. And I don't envision the matchups getting any better the rest of the season. So you throw in all the offensive line issues, the coach play calling issues. You really just need to kind of get your fantasy production here via the pass game. And the fact that it's split so evenly this year, it's just a disaster I'd rather avoid. I think these are purely flex plays. But this would be a week where I'd be fine flexing it if you need to out of running back desperation with all these teams on bye. But man, I just have zero excitement, inspiration to even pick up Spears off waivers. To me, he's a not worthy ad. He's a roster clogger.
So you would add Neal instead if you had that choice.
I would, because I'm never going to put Spears in a lineup. I will put Neal in a lineup should Kamara go down.
Right.
But should Pollard go down, what is Spears going to average for us? 15 points a game ceiling? That's if he hits the end zone.
Yeah.
I don't. So take out that 6 points for the touchdown. We're looking at 9 or so points.
Right.
It's tough, man. I just have zero excitement or enthusiasm for anything Tennessee. And it's just sad to say 7 weeks into the year. Like I was really hoping that this team they had a great offensive line on paper. They had the number one quarterback. They had some quality day 3 receivers that I thought could eventually emerge, but it's a slow burn in Tennessee. I'll just say that they're probably looking at another top 10 pick here in 2026.
One more question before we get to Thursday Night Football. The Jets, I talked about this earlier. There are rumors that Breece Hall is not necessarily happy there. There's rumors that they might trade Breece Hall. Their season's in the toilet, obviously. I say if you have Breece Hall, you want Isaiah Davis just because. That's the way I would play it. If Isaiah Davis is on the waiver wire, do you add him because Hall could get traded? Do you think it's fair to play the what-if game with trades? We talked earlier about guys like Jakobi Meyers and Breece Hall. Like these guys' names are – like how do you handle the potential – Jaylen Waddle's name's been brought up. How do you handle the potential of guys getting traded? How do you handle adding guys that could step forward if those guys get traded? And specifically, what do you think with Isaiah Davis behind Breece Hall?
The NFL is a bit challenging with that. They're not like the NBA where we've got a boatload of trades happening left and right. These kind of don't happen too much. Like it's a great article for ESPN to write with 2 weeks before the trade deadline, but I don't know. I think we're just getting clicks here, team. I do think that Breece is a legitimate trade candidate. Sure. I mean, he's about to finish his rookie contract in the near future. They're 0-7. They're going nowhere fast. So offloading him instead of paying him now while they can get something back, particularly in the comp deal section, makes a lot of sense to me. I'll also add the Jets going by next week. So we've got one more outing here where we can showcase what we've got here in Breece Hall. Good matchup here against the Bengals. Every backfield or tandem of backfield that the Bengals have faced has allowed 100-plus rushing yards to opposing backs. So with that in mind, with the fact that the trade deadline is November 4th, I've added Isaiah Davis in 2 different leagues because I think he's an interesting stash. But I do admit it's a speculative play. And it's also kind of a bet on a Breece Hall injury too, which he's seeing a lot of work. Perhaps he sees even more work here against Cincinnati with the bye week looming. but I think he's a smart ad. But I still put him in kind of the Devin Neal territory in terms of types of ads and what you're expecting.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com, joins us every Thursday. Tyler, let's talk Thursday night football. Vikings, Chargers. We'll start out on the Minnesota side of things. Who's the quarterback of this team? Wentz is going to start tonight, but who's the quarterback of this team?
Yeah, everything points towards JJ McCarthy being that guy. Everything I've read in terms of that, the team is optimistic about him. This isn't like some kind of soft benching that we're hearing rumors about with respect to other quarterbacks like Bryce Young or Justin Fields. It's just legitimately they want to get him back to 100% before they put him back out there, which conflicts with the early reports we had, which is just frustrating that even national beats are getting this stuff wrong. And then they're contradicting themselves. Like Schefter, for this one specifically, has been called out by numerous people. But yeah, it's just kind of frustrating. The good thing is, whenever they've moved on to Wentz, it's been a far different offense. It's been back to the Kevin O'Connell offense that we love for fantasy. They are top 5 in pass rate over expectation in the games that the Vikings have thrown against, but they didn't play the Bengals. That 48-10 victory, exclude that one, where game script really doesn't matter when you're pulling the team out that badly. But the other 3 starts that Wentz has had, they're number 3 in pass rate over expectation. Chargers are right up there too in terms of a high pass rate team. So I'm expecting this one to have quite a bit of pass volume here. Should be a fun matchup here for a Thursday relative to other games that we've had in recent weeks.
Talk about the receiving core that we're going to be seeing tonight with Wentz chucking the football too. We have Jordan Addison, who since his return is right there alongside Justin Jefferson in terms of production. So it's a little bit surprising Addison has been this good. It's a little bit disappointing. Jefferson hasn't been better. It's not that Jefferson has been bad. He just hasn't had that ceiling game yet. So talk us about those two guys, Jefferson and Addison, and what you see tonight in the matchup with the Chargers.
Yeah, it's a fun one because the Chargers are a rather stout pass defense. They don't allow a ton of production on the back end in the pass game. Where they are weakest is against the run. Curious to see how the Vikings try to attack that. They've got some beat-up offensive linemen. Jordan Mason, possibly splitting time with Aaron Jones as we enter this matchup, but as far as the pass game, it's just been fantastic for Addison outside of the one quarter where he was benched because of missing curfew in London. I don't know if everyone knew about that. That's why he had the one quiet game sandwiched between 2 massive games. I'm expecting another pretty solid matchup here. This is a Jesse Minter defense that plays a lot of too high where they try to limit production over the top and really just try to force you to dink and dunk against them. They're a bend not break type of defense. So we could see a lot of catches for Justin Jefferson, like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like this may be ladder worthy. Addison right there with him too in terms of target volume and opportunity. These 2 guys are just cooking right now, and I do not want to bench them in any kind of fantasy format.
You mentioned the backfield situation. We're not positive Aaron Jones returns this week. Unless it's happened the last 20 minutes. He's eligible to return from the injured list. We'll see if it happens this week or next week. Jordan Mason's been doing 15, 56 and 1 every week. He hasn't done anything, but he's been productive-ish. What does Mason look like tonight if he's solo? What does Mason look like tonight if Aaron Jones is back on the field? And would you be confident in any format starting Jones if he's out there?
Yeah, with a 30-plus-year-old back coming back, I'd probably just shy away from Jones should he be ruled active. But if he's ruled active and we get him and Mason playing together, you got to just kind of downgrade Mason's expectations just because of volume. The Vikings are 3-point road dogs going into LAC, but this is a good spot for them to run the ball should they try to attack them that way. We've seen, Jonathan Taylor go absolutely nuclear last week. Before that, Achane. These are 2 prominent running backs I'm talking about here. But the Chargers are very beatable against the run defense. Like they are a team that plays back in terms of their pass defense, and that allows them to give up some good plays on the run. So should the Vikings take advantage of that, which again, I'm not necessarily expecting them to with the way that Kevin O'Connell has been calling plays, it could be just a really heavy pass outing where maybe Mason's back in that 50 rush yard mark with a touchdown. That feels really very accurate. Unless we see Mason rip off some big chunk gains. If we start seeing that early, it's over. I mean, Mason could be like the type of snowball that just gathers momentum, and we're looking at 100-plus outing and 1 or 2 scores. So keep that in mind. Maybe that's a live betting opportunity for those that are able to do so.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. Remember, you can get betting for football, DFS for football, seasonal for football, all 3 of them. One low price, $159.99 the rest of the way. Send a note to support at fantasyguru.com if you want to get that rest of the season. All 3, college and NFL. Tyler, let's switch things over to the Chargers here the last couple minutes of the show. Let's talk about the passing attack here. Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen, I think they had like 29 targets last week, like massive target totals. Quentin Johnson, fumbleitis. He can't hold it. He wasn't fumbling the ball. He wasn't catching the ball. Still can't catch. Still got in the end zone. All three of these guys are playable. How do you look at the three this week? McConkey, Allen, and Johnson. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a fade in this matchup with the Vikings?
Minnesota's tough. They are a defense that likes to blitz. Their defense likes to play a lot of too high. Generally, that allows for a lot of production underneath in terms of like the quarterback just getting the ball quickly. So we could see a lot of slot opportunity for Keenan Allen and for Ladd McConkey and the tight end Rondo Gadsden. I mean, he's had a 75% route share back-to-back matchups. Fantastic performances these last 2 weeks. So I think it's a legitimate four-headed monster where Justin Herbert has been an equal opportunist. He's spreading the ball around, giving everybody some love. Who's ever open, he's thrown it to. So he hasn't really been like focusing on one specific player. Split-wise, though, and matchup-wise, I think I'd really just like the slot guys a little bit more. But that said, we saw some vertical options like DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown. Both these guys did really well against this Vikings defense where they took those shots, those one-on-one opportunities, and the big guys came down with the ball more often than not. So Quentin Johnson could be in the rebound. 2 drops last week, two air balls by Herbert as well. So maybe there's a bit of a chance for a rebound here after a quiet 2-catch, 30-yard outing from Johnston. But the player I like the most might actually be the tight end, Rondo Gadsden. I put him as the cover of my article for waivers this week. I think he's a great plug-and-play, 7+ catches in back-to-back matchups.
Right.
And Vikings are a little beat up at linebacker. They've had some guys in and out. Curious to see who they end up playing tonight, but a good spot in my eyes for Gadsden to continue the early season success that he's shown.
What about the rushing attack tonight? Obviously, we've got news that Hassan Haskins is out. Looks like Nyheim Hines is going to be active. We know exactly who Hines is. Third down back, pass catcher, that kind of thing. Kamani Vidal is the one of the two if we're going to play somebody, obviously. The question becomes, does Vidal touch the ball 12 times? Does he touch it 21 times? Are you aggressively starting him? Are you tepidly starting him this week? What are you doing with Kamani Vidal?
Yeah, the Vikings shut down the Eagles' run game last week, which I'm curious to see how much the Chargers run here because prior to that matchup, Minnesota was a team you could run against. And maybe it was just a 1 week fallacy where the Eagles are just a team that can't run this year. I mean, maybe Saquon's legs are just purely cooked at this juncture. A lot of carries last year. A lot of carries. A lot of touches.
He's literally half the running back he was last year. It's even less than that, I think, on a per game basis. It's wild.
Like I'm in a guillotine league, and I didn't even bet on Saquon. I just let someone else take him.
Wow.
Vidal is coming off a slow matchup where they got boat raced by the Colts, where they had to throw the ball a ton last week. This Chargers team, though, like week in and week out, they want to throw the ball. That's how they've shown their cards so far. But this is a good spot for them to run the ball should they choose to pivot. I just don't know if they will. And with the offensive tackles, they were down to offensive tackle number 6 and number 7 last week because of in-game injuries and the injuries beforehand. Insane. So maybe they get back Joe Alt. Maybe they get back Trey Pipkins. We'll have to get final inactives for that. Which again,
seems like they're both trending to a yes, but we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know for sure. That's announced 90 minutes before kickoff or maybe earlier. But keep an eye on that. Should they be active? I think Vidal's top 20 running back play. Should one or two of those guys be out? Maybe it's RB 24 plus. But I think we could see another. I could see him hitting the paint pretty easily in this matchup. It's more just a question of what type of game script do we get back and forth. I think this could be a shootout where it's a lot of passing on each side, where Vidal would really just be used selectively and randomly, where it's maybe more of the 12 to 15 carry game and he hits the paint, where fantasy owners are happy with the result, but they're not like doing cartwheels.
Right. Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. Tyler joins us every Thursday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. He usually has a bet for us. And again, remember, you can send a note to support@fantasyguru.com. Send that email, support@fantasyguru.com. Say you want to get the NFL and college football package the rest of the way, get you all the seasonal coverage, all the DFS coverage, and all the betting coverage. Tyler, do you have a bet that you'll share of the many you'll have tonight over at the site? But do you have one to share here with the folks?
Yes, I do. I'd actually like to share. Oh, that's not the right button. Right. I'm going to share my screen with something because I think it's a good supplement where sometimes they say a picture's worth 1,000 words.
True.
This is the passing chart for Justin Herbert the last time that he played the Brian Flores defense, the Minnesota Vikings. Look at all those green dots, 10 yards and less. That's a lot. That's 30 a lot. Plus, 30 plus. So my bet for tonight is Justin Herbert over 23.5 pass completions. I've been talking about this passing attack all afternoon here, where they are one of the most pass-heavy offenses. The Vikings are one of the most heavily passed defenses against in terms of pass rate over expectation. And again, the last time we saw Herbert face this defense, we are looking at 40 of 47 for 400 plus yards and 3 scores. The passing chart there, 32 completions came 10 yards or less. So when blitzed, keep in mind that Herbert's been playing without his tackles for all this year. There's a possibility they're questionable. We'll figure that part out. But when blitzed, Herbert is sporting an 80% catchable throw rate. That's number 2 among all quarterbacks, and a 67% completion rate. That's quarterback 8. I expect Flores to do his typical thing where he sends the guys in the blitz. Herbert dinks and dunks to avoid the pressure. This 23.5 line's widely available. I would play this honestly up to 24.5. I think there's a good chance we see him put up a lot of short area passes and rely on the yak here in this matchup. So this will be my bet for tonight. You can catch all of my other bets over at fantasyguru.com. I post them in our Discord. I tag everybody as soon as they're posted, so you guys get the same lines and odds that I do. And I've got 3 bets up for tonight. Good luck if you're tailing.
Yeah, click the subscribe tab in the top right corner or send an email to support@fantasyguru.com. You don't have to get all 3. If you just want to get the betting package, you can do that too, but there is that massive deal. If you get all 3, one low price, the rest of the season, $159.99. Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. 40 for 47, by the way, is impossible. Like, isn't it? I mean, that is deal.
Although, what did he just do last week? He threw it like 60 times.
60
dropbacks.
55.
60 dropbacks. That's what it was. 61 dropbacks.
There you go. We're both right. There you go. Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. A few questions before we shut things down here. Eric Guy's got a start-sit question. Talked earlier about Tez Johnson. You said Alec Minor. You said you're not really in on the Titans this week or any week. And then Gatson, who you mentioned, who you're a big fan of. If you had to choose one of these 3, do you go Gatson, especially since it's a tight end premium league?
That's the tiebreaker. I do go that route, actually. If we get another, 7 catches for 50 yards, that's a lot of fantasy points in the tight end premium format. I think that's a realistic stat line for him. I'm projecting him just over 50 yards. So, yeah, I like that for him quite a bit. I put Tez number 2, Alec number 3. A.O. Manor's matchup's not bad either. The Colts are very beatable on the outside. We just saw, again, Herbert just threw for 400 plus yards against the Chargers last week. The Colts last week, where A.O. Manor should see plenty of those matchups against those beat up Colts who have nobody at the cornerback position. They are like practice squad level players.
Stephen T's got a question. We don't know about Nico Collins with the head injury, whether he's going to play or not. But Stephen says if Collins does play, the decision then becomes Pittman or Diggs at the wide receiver spot. You have an obvious favorite between Pittman and Diggs out there?
You know, Pittman's been getting by with touchdowns, but I kind of like Diggs here a bit more in this matchup because I think the Colts just run all over the Titans. I actually don't mind taking the under on Daniel Jones pass attempts, just a secondary bet I was just thinking of, because I think they're just going to run all over the Tennessee Titans, especially if we get Jeffery Simmons out as expected. So Pittman likely up against limited volume. We're going to need to get lucky with a touchdown here. Diggs, on the other hand, they play the Cleveland Browns. Diggs has fantastic splits against man coverage, and the Browns run it at a top 6 coverage rate. They're also a really tough defense to run the ball against. So I think we could see a limited outing from Ramondre Stevenson. Travion Henderson's not even worth discussing in fantasy formats at this juncture, unfortunately. So I think it's going to be Diggs. That would be my selection here as my player to recommend.
Ethan B's got 2 questions with Kamani Vidal in them. First one, Vidal or DJ Moore in a PPR setup? The wide receiver or the running back? Bears versus Chargers, go.
I'm going to go Vidal. It's just really tough to bank on DJ Moore's outings these weeks. It's like Caleb Williams does like Caleb Williams things where it's really just kind of mashed by Ben Johnson trying to do his best version of prettying up this offense. And credit to him, he's done some decent work with it, but Caleb Williams still has a lot of accuracy issues. The volume is also a concern there too. This Ravens defense still without Justin Matabuki. They've got some guys coming back, but I think it's going to be another DeAndre Swift matchup where they just run the ball heavily and we see some Caleb Williams oscillation in terms of his productivity and efficiency. So give me Vidal.
Next one is Vidal versus Chase Brown. Now, Chase Brown ran for 100 yards last week, which might get people excited, but P. Ryan is playing a lot more. He's way more involved than he has been. The last 2 games with Flacco, Brown has 4 catches for -1 yard. Brown or Vidal? Which one of these 2 running backs?
That's a tougher one. They are 7-point home favorites against the Jets. The Bengals are. So I kind of want to skew Brown here, where I think Vidal might be. Vidal's a 3-point home favorite, so this one's tough, man. Brown hasn't really done anything to inspire much confidence, but Vidal, I just see less of a secure path. So I would probably play Chase Brown, but I don't have a lot of confidence in this answer. I would check our rankings over at Fantasy Guru and use Jeff as the tiebreaker.
Isn't it wild to think that was the first time this year that Chase Brown ran for 50 yards?
50. Yeah. They gave him a game ball because they were just like, hey, you did something.
Hey! 12 PPR points. Yay, woo! Greg M. asked a question. I mean, I think Adam Thielen caught like 5 balls this season. Is he scoring tonight?
If you got that hunch, Greg, go put some money on that because I imagine there are fantastic odds.
Slim Shady asks, Tez Johnson or Alec Pierce? You've talked about Tez Johnson. Alec Pierce, obviously a big play threat. I don't think we're certain about Downs and whether he's playing or not yet. Tez Johnson or Alec Pierce?
I always go with volume, and I'm going to go with Tez for that reason. I think Alec Pierce could easily strike this defense for an 80-yard score. That would not shock whatsoever. Titans are also without L'Jarius Sneed, so there's like a lot of reasons to like this Colts vertical attack. I just worry about volume. I think that's a legitimate concern where fantasy football is all oriented around volume. So give me Tez Johnson, 10 targets last week, Saints secondary, a matchup to expose, as we talked about a little bit earlier in the show.
Final question for you. Smitty So Pretty has without Jayden Daniels this week. Joe Flacco in the Bucks. Flacco's been solid in his 2 games, obviously with the Bengals. Or Jackson Dart. One old, one young. One guy in a wheelchair. One guy who runs like the wind. Flacco or Dart? You couldn't get 2 more disparate guys to choose from this week. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and emotionally, I want to root for both these guys. I just love watching both these guys play. Flacco understands the mission. Get the ball in Jamar Chase's hands.
Not hard.
So big shout out to him.
Yeah.
He's also playing against the Jets defense that will be without Sauce Gardner, who's in concussion protocol. So good spot for Chase to get cooking again. But I love Dart, man. Like that rushing productivity, very evident. We saw him run for 50-plus yards against the Eagles just 2 weeks ago. Should be getting Slayton back. That's a question mark. Not entirely sure on that one. But I kind of want to lean Dart here as the high floor play. Flacco, man, it's tough, man. I think both these guys are probably top 15 options. So this is a good question. I'm going to go Dart because I always side with rushing production. Gives you a higher floor and a little bit more bankable productivity. But it should be a pretty close one. I think these guys are probably going to end fairly similar in terms of their final outputs here in week 8.
And Smitty, just so you know, we do have Dart in the rankings higher too. So that's in agreement with what Tyler just said. Tyler Beaker of FantasyGuru.com joins us every Thursday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. As you can see there, we take questions at the end of the visit as well. Tyler, you're usually on that live stream on Tuesday talking seasonal, but then you've got the Friday live stream where you host it talking DFS, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, every Friday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern, we'll be walking the entire slate, going position by position, looking at how to attack every single DFS spot. This week, I've got Armando Marsal joining me this Friday, so excited to chat the slate with him. We'll hit position by position like we always do and end the show with some of our favorite plays and core stacks. So be sure to check that out. We start at 7 p.m. Eastern. And
you can get his DFS coverage. You can get his betting coverage. You can get his seasonal coverage. He does the game flow article every week. Get all that over at fantasyguru.com. Click the subscribe tab or send an email to support@fantasyguru.com. Get all 3 DFS seasonal wagering for football, all of it, NFL, CFL, all of it for $159.99 the rest of the season. If you're interested, you can still buy all 3 individual packages, but that's a great deal for all of the football coverage the rest of the season. Tyler, as always, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for going a little extra too. We appreciate that. Good luck tonight. Good luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for having me, and good luck to everybody this Thursday night.
He's Tyler Beaker. I'm Ray Flowers. I'll be back tomorrow with Russell Clay. He'll join us at about halfway through the show, which of course starts at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, as it does every day, Monday through Friday. For Tyler, I'm Ray. It's been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.